My name is Kojovi Edem Abba. I'm a filmmaker. I've been a filmmaker for the past 12 years. I've spent the better part of the decade working as a television producer, content creator, documentary filmmaker, producing short videos for music playbacks, television commercials. I think what I'm trying to say is that I have walked the entire circle of content creation and film production, including feature-length films. So yeah, that's who I am and that's what I do. My decision to become a filmmaker is quite an interesting one. And I always give the credit to my dad because when I was young, my dad had favorite TV programs that he could never watch because of his work. My dad worked as a banker for the better part of his adult life, all the way into retirement. That kept him away from home a lot. And one of the few ways he and I could bond and connect was through discussing a lot of interesting things. And he had very interesting programs on TV that he would love to watch, but because of his work, he was never really around. So he would have me watch them, and then when he comes back from work and he's having dinner, I would summarize those things for him. So I took a particular liking to the screen at a very young age. I watched a lot of television, I would say honestly. And what happened was that my dad would make me watch content that was not produced in Ghana. And then I would watch that and I would watch content that was produced in Ghana, and I kept seeing this wide gap. I realized that the quality of the content that we were producing was not matching it, and it wasn't because talent was not available locally. So I had this passion developing inside that I was going to grow up one day and I was going to be the difference. I was going to make content that will blow people's minds. So my decision to become a filmmaker probably was at the age of 10. I decided a very long time ago, and I've really worked myself into the industry that way. Yeah. On top of the list is lack of resources and support structures. Well, I was fortunate to go to film school, but filmmaking doesn't start and end in film school. There is a practical aspect of the profession which you must gain. I was fortunate enough to be mentored by two great men right at the very beginning of my career, but unfortunately not a lot of young creatives or filmmakers get such an opportunity. So over the years, what I've realized is that a lot of passion is there, a lot of zeal is there, but there isn't mentorship, and then there is lack of funding and financing, which is very, very required for this industry. So a lot of people become frustrated after a few years because even though they have the talent, they have the passion, they don't get the right kind of mentorship, and then most importantly, there is no funding available to sponsor your creativity. So you might have many brilliant ideas, but your ideas may not necessarily get to where you want them to get to, because unlike in other jurisdictions like in Europe and in America, where fundings and support systems are available for young filmmakers to do amazing things, you would find very brilliant, talented young men and women in our part of the world who do not necessarily get the opportunity to explore the full length of their potentials because they don't get the right support systems, which, I mean, it's no fault of theirs. They are just not in place in our part of the world. Yeah. Structures and systems. Young people need to be given the hope that choosing to become a creative is not the end of your life, and it will not necessarily mean that you would have to die a pauper. So I think what is important is the right structures should be put in place for young creatives to be able to access a mentorship, funding, support systems. I know we do have a film guild in Ghana, but there is a lot more that can be done to beef up the support for especially young talents that want to venture into this great industry. Because look, nations have developed or created the narratives we know about them through their film industry, so that the reality on the ground may not necessarily be what you see on the screen, but they have managed to paint an image about themselves that makes the world give them a certain level of respect that unfortunately for us we don't have, because we have left our story to other nations to tell for us, and they are not able to tell our stories the best way we could have told it ourselves. But they have had the capacity and the power to be able to tell their own story because they've created their own narrative. And we have the capacity to do that if we would just pay attention to the creatives in our part of the world. And the industry should be opened up for investors to be able to find the right talent and put in the right investment to promote young filmmakers to be able to do great things, because the opportunities and the playing field has not been level, and a lot more can be done to connect investors to young filmmakers, bring influencers to the table, so that decision makers can look at how they can open opportunities for young filmmakers to explore their potential by making basic things like funding available. Yeah. A lot of what I am able to do now comes from doing small projects, small film projects here and there that don't only give you funding but also help you to better develop your skills. Because as for filmmaking, it requires one thing: it requires practice. So the more you get contracts to work in documentary film, to work in television, to work in content creation or advertisement, you gain experience, and then if it pays, then you're able to save up. It just requires too much effort to be able to raise capital, because the industry itself is very capital intensive. It takes a lot of money to be able to even acquire the right tools and be able to fund projects and fund productions. It's very capital intensive. So there is a lot more we can do, but because of the limited funding, we are not able to do as much as we want to do. And considering that we have to sometimes spend some of the creative time working 9-to-5 jobs, it does take away from your creative juices. But basically, that is how I've been funding my career as a filmmaker. Yeah. Working as a television producer was notably amongst the highlights of my career, where I worked in content creation to help audiences with self-development. I worked as a television producer for 3 years, and I got the opportunity to create content in various forms and styles that were targeted at helping people with self-development. Deranged, which is currently showing on Netflix. I have also worked on documentary films like Perspective on oil and gas and mining generally in West Africa, the impact of mining on individuals and the livelihood of families in villages and towns around West Africa. I have traveled extensively all through Southern Asia to produce content for various organizations and individuals where my skills have been requested. So off the top of my head, these are some of the few things that I could think about that I have worked on as a filmmaker. I can't really seem to think of anything that I think I'm doing differently. So I think for me, if being unique is being different, then that is what I try to do in my storytelling or my approach to storytelling. I always try to be unique in my approach to storytelling, because I strongly believe that is what sets every story apart from the other. That's the teller of the story will do his best or her best to tell their story from their perspective, and that's the beauty of filmmaking. It's not from one person's perspective, it's from different perspectives. So for me, I always try to tap the originality of my thoughts and my intentions to be the source of my inspiration for the content I create or for the stories I tell. I have also tried to mentor a few young people here and there, because myself, I was fortunate to be mentored, so I'm very big on mentorship. So I have quite a number of young people that I have had the opportunity to train, and for me it's the highlight of my career, because teaching is one of the best ways to learn, and I take very good advantage of that. But I try to be as original as I can be when I'm telling my stories, and my main focus is on helping young Africans develop themselves so that we can tackle the problems of our continent and be able to help develop and promote our continent and change the narrative, or change the African narrative. So what drives me is basically a deep desire to see Africa develop by empowering the youth through cinema, and I think that's what keeps me going. In the next 5-10 years, maybe not even that far away, I want to have more than enough content especially in the feature length film space. I want to be able to produce good film that people can go to the cinema and see. I also want to intensify my mentorship. I want to be able to open up the space more for young people to come through and learn, because that's what has helped to develop my career. And I'm very keen on mentoring other people so that we can have more hands and more creatives in the space. I also want to be very, very strong on advocacy to be able to get funding for young filmmakers in our part of the world, because it's one of the things that is really, really lacking. And if we are able to level the playing field a little for our people, trust me, amazing, amazing content is going to come out from our part of the world. So for me, what you should expect for the next couple of years is a lot of feature-length stuff, featured documentaries, written narratives. That's what I want to be doing, yeah. If you're a young person and you're looking to go into this industry as a filmmaker, you have to be smart. You have to be smart in the sense that you need to understand the industry you're entering into, and then you need to take calculated risks, but never stop learning. Never stop learning. Where the production is, go there, learn what you can, develop your own self as much as you can. Don't just do what you are told. Learn the rules, but learn to break the rules very wisely, and be a risk taker, because this industry is strongly hinged on risk, and it is risk takers that win. I have enjoyed a better part of a decade in this industry, and I don't think I would choose another career, because even though it's not been a smooth journey, it's been a very, very exciting and interesting journey, and I'll do it again. So if you're a young person and you're thinking of becoming a filmmaker, you've already made the right choice by making this decision, but you need to be smart, and you need to find the right people to coach you, the right mentors to work, and be willing and open to learn, and be humble, and you will survive this industry, yeah.